Okay, this is what I was going to tell you guys about, as far as, if you remember when I said that you wanted to make sure that you got the tooth on the right mark. Okay, let's see if I can get that in focus. All right, do you see where that notch is? If I can get this down in here to sit pretty for me, and I'll show you. Okay, you should be able to see it really well now. Okay, you see that mark right there? Okay, that mark right there on this tooth. All right, so all you have to worry about is getting this tooth on that mark right there. Okay, it's kind of a tricky process because it'll tend to want to move because the valves are going to be opening and closing as you turn it over. So what you want to do is just work it back and forth until you get it to where you want it to sit. The same thing on this side. Okay, you can see where the mark is on that tooth. You want to make sure that that tooth is sitting on that mark. Okay, right there. It'll be like a V type looking like thing on the valve cover. Okay, but you want to get that mark, that tooth, that specific tooth, you want it to sit pretty right on there. Same thing with this one, you want it to sit pretty with that tooth that tooth right there on that mark. Okay, now down here, down below, okay, there's going to be a mark. I don't think you're going to be able to see this real well. I don't know if I can get this down in here or not. We'll try. Okay, down in here you can see, I think you can see where the mark is on the block itself. All right, and there's also, let me see if I can get in here. All right, yeah, there we go. Okay, the mark is right here on the block. Okay, but there's also a mark right on the crank, which is right where that needs to be. So that mark needs to be right on there. Now this is kind of a tricky thing too, because the crank is going to take and do a compression stroke. It's going to do a couple compression strokes. So all you do is just work it back and forth. Just work the crank back and forth, and it will eventually take and give to where you've got a free compression stroke on there, and it'll let loose the gas, and it'll finally sit pretty right on that mark, right where you want it. And as soon as you get that, and you get these up here, you get this one here done, get this tooth right here, get that tooth on that mark, get that tooth right there on that mark, you'll have it in perfect time. This is how they do engines now, as far as how this is set up like this. And I love the way, you know, all these car manufacturers are doing this, because it does make things a lot easier. Now, the only thing I still have to do, I have to clean up that pulley there, and I have to clean up the tensioner pulley. And once I get those done, I can get the timing belt on here, and we should be good. And that should be it. So I'm going to get busy on this, and we'll see what happens. Okay, we got the new belt on. Okay, all the way down there to the crank, we got it on there. I didn't have to take off the tensioner pulley like I thought I was going to. I figured out a different way to do it, and I'm not going to tell you how I did it, but let's just say it was a little bit easier than having to take off that goddamn tensioner pulley, so fuck all that dumb shit. But I got it on there. Now comes the tricky part. We need to double check, because otherwise I'm going to have to tear this all apart again and start all over. I got to make sure that we get these notches on this one to line up. You got to get this one right here. Got to get that to line up, and the one that's over here, I got to get it, make sure that they both line up here. And then down there on the crank, I got to look and make sure that one down there is also lined up at the same point. If they're all lined up, I am good to go. Okay, we've got it pretty much all put back together except for the top half of the cover for this. I got the power steering and everything hooked back up. I got the alternator hooked back up, which I still got to take and tighten that up just a little bit. She's squeaking a tad, so I'm going to take and see if I can do that. But I'm going to take and I've got the motor mount and all that back in here. Everything's all tightened down like it's supposed to be. And I've already test run this thing a couple of times. And aside from an exhaust leak up on the front, the moment of truth. I'd say we got her. No bent valves, no bad lifters, exhaust leak down there, which I know all about that piece of shit. Got it all put back together. And it's all running. So there you go. That's a timing belt, all completely redone. The only thing left to really do is just take it for a test drive down the road and see how it does going down the road. It should be just like it was before, I hope. But that's my mess. Ugh. So we took and put new coils on it because we thought that might have been the problem. That wasn't the problem. It was a busted timing belt. So we took the timing belt and I put a brand new one on it. Got that all set. And that's pretty much about it.
Well, and then you had to shorten the...
So now the only other project I've got is the fuel pump, which is this back here. I've already got 2 screws in it. I got to put a few more in it, but you can see what I'm doing there. I took and I got to put a couple on either side so it seats itself down on that rubber gasket. Once I get that done, I'm all set. The crazy part about that is I've already busted 3 drill bits drilling in new holes, because the way they did it originally, they had Phillips head screws that were in there, and they were rusted so bad I ended up having to take a chisel to them, and I had to punch them out because they were just so rusted and stripped you just couldn't do anything with them. So I just said fuck it and punched them all out of there, and now I'm just going to take and tap some new holes in the top and into the fuel tank and be done with it. Call it a day, I guess. So we'll see what happens. So far it's running. I mean, you know, I'm getting fuel up there. Fuel gauge is working like it's supposed to. We'll just get this thing fastened down, put the seat back in it, and we're good to go. So I'll be back.